I'm JJ Perez with Inside Runner Sports. Greg Luca, San Antonio Express News. We are coming to you from the on-campus meeting room where UTSA just wrapped up their press conference.
Well, I mean, we're talking like a couple hours ago.
Right.
Lisa was right here and Dr. Amy was right there.
Yeah.
You're in the spot.
In the spot where the historic moment happened. UTSA is officially joined, or has been announced that they're going to the American Athletic Conference. Greg, a lot of stuff to digest today. We talked 35 minutes with Taylor and Lisa, did one-on-one interviews afterwards, talked to all the coaches.
Not to mention this afternoon, which I thought was super critical to get the league's perspective.
The Zoom, lots of info on the Zoom. So what are just some of your big takeaways? Financial boondoggle? Is that the word?
Wow, I can't even tell you if that's right. Usually I can answer, is that the word? This one I got nothing. So
Big net positive game for the Roadrunners today.
Absolutely. And the specifics of that, we can't tell you.
Because they don't know.
We don't know anything more than we knew the other day on the actual financials part. But what did Dr. Amy say is a significant
financial impact? Something to that
effect. Certainly that is kind of what was anticipated.
Right.
I don't think there's any surprise there. And then in terms of exit fee, entry fee versus media rights, Commissioner Oresco said today that it seems like that's still up in the air.
Yeah.
I guess there's a fine line between still up in the air and we're not telling you, but it seemed like it was still up in the air.
The statement he made exactly was some of the reports have been incorrect.
Correct. Yeah. So it seems like there's been a lot of speculation out there of
$2 million.
How much
north of $2
how much
million.
does it drop in general from the reported kind of 6 to 7 range before?
Right.
And then does it differ from new members versus continuing members?
And just to clarify, it was the existing members right now are 6 to 7 million annually for the TV contract, and that's what we're talking about.
So it's how does the total change, and then how does the distribution change to all the new schools? We just don't have those answers yet, and presumably it'll come down to public records someday.
Right.
Unless they just start feeling like announcing stuff, but I don't anticipate
So
that.
it has to be, staying on this financial aspect, it has to be the conference is going to renegotiate with the network at some point when the teams leave and when they come in. And just talking about the time frame, we learned today that July 2024 is the latest UTSA will join, but it also sounded like July 2023 was a possibility.
Right. I think this is just me speculating, but it sounds like it would have to be a trickle-down effect from when Texas and Oklahoma moved versus then when the AAC schools moved to the Big 12, and then that allows Conference USA schools to move over there. But there's going to be a lot of other moves that are in the works, and I guess they'll probably set it up where it's just sort of everything all happens at once. I mean, it would be incredibly
one day flip the switch, huh?
The logistics are impossible to have it overlap, you would think. So presumably we'll find out when that's going to be, and it'll all happen in one fell swoop.
We heard today, or at least they said, that they started working on this when OU and Texas made the move over the summer. Were you surprised to hear that?
No, I think that makes sense to me. I mean, you would think that they're not doing their jobs right unless they're having at least some conversations about it even before that, to just sort of understand the landscape and what options are out there, because it's no secret that Conference USA is not the most desirable league to be in. So it would always be prudent to just have an idea of what the landscape looks like and what your other options are. And I think specifically once things happen with Texas and OU, even we in the media and every fan on earth knew that these things just have trickle-down effects. And if it happens, it's going to get here eventually. I didn't actually, maybe I'm just kind of new to this, but I didn't think it would happen all as fast as it did. But, here we are.
So that was the other thing that was sort of surprising. So they said the process kind of started in the summer, but then I guess there was this huge rush recently because they also said it happened very quickly as well. So
they could also define summer till now as very quickly. It's probably a lot of logistical work. So I don't know if there's any specific to the last couple of weeks or anything that it might have ramped up, but I do know that certainly there's a lot of moving parts. And I think something that was incredibly interesting to me was to hear Dr. Amy say the American was our focus and our intention from the beginning of the conversation. And obviously when you land in the league, it's probably prudent to say that, but I believe it. I think it makes sense, and I think that it just sounded like a genuine comment. I believe that was probably truly their focus.
I want to read this quote to you that I put in my story here from Taylor Amy, and I just want you to tell me what you think it means. 2 things we need to tackle regardless of the American is our athletics budget and the facilities we we need to be a fully competitive program. It's going to take time. None of these things happen overnight, but we've been very deliberate about everything we do here at UTSA. So do they know what they need to do and they just don't know how to do it, or is their plan just going to take a long time to happen?
So to preface, in the world of print newspaper deadlines, I wrote a story that is online and ready to go already, and I saved a lot of these different kind of financial things and what do we have to do between now and then for a story I'm going to write tonight or tomorrow. And so I haven't looked over all the quotes as closely, and I haven't totally dived into that, but it seems like the general gist of what we got here today, and this is coming from Lisa as well, is we had already built this master plan. So the press release comes out today and from the league, and it's got these lines about UTSA's future projects, and people say, well, this is cool. It's the stuff that they had in their master plan 2 years ago, and they talked about it at the race opening.
Yeah, there's a little graphic and everything you could see.
And then when you ask them about it, there is a telling quote that I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was just like, they want to go at the same fast pace they had already hoped to go at.
Yeah.
It's not like they were dragging their feet with this intentionally.
Right.
And so I think Dr. Amy said in the press conference that they bumped the budget to $35 million.
Yeah, this year.
Which is a step in the right direction towards this kind of 40 to 60 range that the American has. And I crunched some of the numbers on this. It'll be in the story I write tomorrow or the next day. But there's a lot of different things that they have to do to really get up to that level. And I don't think that they can do it overnight, or else they would have done it already, right? If it was that simple, it's just
they'd be at the top of Conference USA right now.
If it was that easy to do it, they would just do it. So it's going to be a work in progress, but certainly they said the right things in terms of being intentional about it and intending to get to a level where they are more on par with those programs.
Yeah, I think we talked about it the other day. It's like you can't fault UTSA for making the move because they had to, especially now you look at what Conference USA seems like it's going to be. Either a shell of its former self, or
it seems
if it's
like
not even going to be there.
There's all sorts of new rumors every day, and there's just like a lot of movement happening there, and it leaves that league in a real bind.
I mean, that's my big question with being able to compete with some of these other programs, and we're talking football, obviously, but you look at the basketball program. I think that's going to be kind of the biggest hurdle, the biggest program to have. Obviously, all the Olympic sports as well, but I just
don't really understand that landscape well enough. But basketball, certainly, you can say this is a league that has Memphis and has Wichita State in it, teams that have been in the Final Four within the last 15 years and are consistently competitive. And obviously, Memphis recruits at a level as high as anybody in the country, and it's just going to be a challenge, and it's going to be weird for those teams to come to the Convocation Center, which is nothing probably like any other gym that they've played in terms of just the quality being so low and it lacking as much as it does relative to a lot of these other facilities. So again, at no point since Dr. Campos or Taylor Amy got here would they have said, the Convocation Center is cool, we'll keep it forever.
Right.
So it was always something that they wanted to do. And does it get more urgent? Maybe. It probably becomes a bigger issue, but I don't know if it gets any easier to get done. That being said, there are certainly this significant financial gain, but that can only go so many different places. You got to pay your staff. You probably have to expand certain areas in terms of what you can offer to the student athletes to have the competition and recruiting with these other schools that you're now in the league with. And so there's probably more places to distribute the money than there is money coming in.
Yeah, and I actually did a one-on-one interview with Lisa outside that I uploaded the audio to, and she said something like their goal every year is to fundraise $6 million, and that would cover all of the scholarships for all of the athletes. And
that's like an ongoing thing?
Yeah.
That even into the past, right? The Runner Athletic Fund?
Yeah. So she even said they're short of that. I asked her, like, what are the short-term goals you have to get to? So, and then obviously the other facilities that we heard mentioned when race was announced, and now you have a 10,000 seat thing that's going to be at the forefront and all this stuff, and it's just like more questions than answers. How do you plan to pay for this? I think the short answer is we don't know yet.
Right. But we could have sat here and had that exact same conversation a couple days ago. So I don't want to, or a couple weeks ago, right? Because it was always a concern. So I don't want to bury the part where moving to a new league is a positive, because it does lead to that revenue influx. And there's these other things that come with it, but those were issues anyway. Like, basically I'm saying you have you have new positives and the same negatives.
Right.
You know
so you're a plus.
So you're
overall
so you're better
plus.
off than
So that's where we're at. UTSA coming to this. Is this the best Power 5 conference?
I want to answer that, but before
Yeah.
we get off the previous point, the part where that disconnects in terms of you have more positives and the same negatives is if it just gets harder to compete and then there's more losing, because then you have new negatives as well. But to answer your question, it seems so. I mean, they seem to have the confidence and the bravado that it is.
Yeah.
And you can look at some of the schools and what they've accomplished in recent years, and I think Mike Oresco had a pretty good rundown today of this 10-win season here, and this 9-win season here, and this bowl here, and all that. And you know, Memphis had gone to the New Year's Six bowl and claimed that spot one year, and Memphis isn't going anywhere, at least not immediately. That could still be something that happens down the line. So it would be really hard to say versus the Mountain West or versus the Sun Belt or versus whoever else who is truly superior at this point, but it certainly seems like they're at least in the running for that, if not the front runner to be considered the top
a good fit, I think, for the Roadrunners, and you know, a home for at least the short to mid term. I mean, it's hard to see where this program is going to be 5 to 6 years down the road.
Well, see, it's because it doesn't really matter what UTSA wants. Like, this move wasn't triggered by them; it was triggered by Texas and Oklahoma, and so it's whatever the next earth-shattering, landscape-shifting event at the top is that trickles down here would probably be the thing that next triggers the move, because what more could you want than the situation that they've just moved into now? I feel like everything that they need from a league, they're going to get out of this American Athletic Conference. So stay here forever if you can pull it off. Nothing pushes you out. Especially the Texas consideration, I think, is really strong too.
It's a huge Texas footprint, right?
You got North Texas, you got Rice, and you got SMU in here, and the league is headquartered here. And
Irving.
I don't know how much that makes a difference, but it's certainly nice to be geographically at home in a way that makes sense and have some easy travels and things like that.
And can you put a value on just all of, not just football and not just basketball, but all of the programs having access to this TV deal? I mean, it's not online, it's not streaming, and I think I said it before, it's like the whole East Coast is going to get introduced to UTSA.
I'm never going to have to answer an email about how do I watch this game on Stadium. That'll be cool. Because even this weekend, I don't know. I have no idea. So it's, you know, that's just how the league works now, and it'll be good to have that national exposure where just on a random weeknight, some of these games are going to be on an ESPN network
Wednesday,
that people
Thursday,
are going to see.
Friday,
And that just is a level of just casual exposure and people running into UTSA that doesn't exist. And nobody happens upon a game on Stadium.
Right.
Just doesn't work the same way, and that can only help.
A waypoint on the trajectory for UTSA. Is that, you agree with that?
I think Dr. Amy talked about waypoints, I believe, at the race grand opening. I think that's kind of one of his things, different benchmarks for the university. And in terms of athletics, why wouldn't this be one? I mean, it's hard to make a move like this. It's hard for something this drastic to change. And so you understand why there's so much excitement about it. And like we were just talking about, it just sets them up well for the future to be here. Whereas, you know, maybe it wasn't urgent to get out of Conference USA prior to the realignment. But it certainly wasn't ideal. And this might be ideal if they can find a way to be competitive and fund and resource their programs at that level.
Those are going to be the challenges, because you want to be at the top of that. I mean, obviously you could compete with Rice and North Texas, but I mean, even now, North Texas, your coaching staff has a significantly higher.
And there's a little bit of security in that, though, right? It's kind of probably comforting to know that, you know, you've been in there with these other schools and you're at least at home with that group.
And you're
that's
now
basically,
able to
it's almost half the league, 6 out of 14. So you know that you can hang with that portion of this, and so not like you guys are all in this together, but generally you are not a fish out of water, or you're not an outlier.
Not an outlier. So, Greg, did we touch on anything? What a week this turned out to be, right? I mean, the last conference realignment was kind of just got sprung on us, and this thing
before my time.
It was just kind of, it was way down the road before we heard on this. Got leaked here a few days before, and man, just a lot of legwork.
And now we're getting ready to go to Ruston, and it's quite the year for UTSA athletics. It's like they're keeping us busy, but in such a good way, you know.
Lots of news,
very positive.
Lots of stuff happening. So I guess that'll wrap it up. We finish up here on campus. The Roadrunners head to the American Athletic Conference It's Greg Luca, San Antonio Express News. I'm JJ Perez. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check us out this weekend in Ruston as UTSA football looks to go for 8-0. See if the triangle travels. Thanks, guys.